Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. This is No Covers. Welcome to your inner city wake up call. Coming to you out of Wilmington, North Carolina. For you all that
Why, Jesus.
you all that were on the talk show webcast, I apologize. You've probably been on the phone line wondering what is that fool doing this morning. We were trying something new, and you probably got music instead of the speech. So you can catch us on the YouTube replay. This equipment, I'm playing with it. I'm learning this new studio. I paid for it. I pay for it every month out of pocket. It allows me to do YouTube. It allows me to do blog talk radio. And it allows me to go all over the air. So I'm learning it. I'm going to master it eventually. So just bear with me. Announcements again this morning, January the 18th, January the 16th, the MLK breakfast. January the 18th, the Advanced Youth Outreach. That's on a Monday night. The family event over at Advance's place. Check Advanced Williams on Facebook. You can catch him. January the 28th, New Hanover County NAACP meeting at 7 p.m. 501 Red Cross Street, St. Stephen's MA Church. For those of Martin Luther King celebration this week, I've been playing Martin Luther King this morning. I don't want you to think I slighted you, but I can't remember everything. I did not know that you had a press conference and a reception the other night. You didn't send it in. I don't remember everything that goes on in the city. That's why I asked you to send everything in to No Covers, NOO, at covers, NOO, No Covers, at gmail.com. And that way I can get you on the air and I can get you on our events calendar. We want to try to cover every event so people know what's going on. That's the purpose of what we do here at No Covers. This morning, I want to tell a little story. I posted something the other night that said, and my son wrote that we are all pawns in the grand scheme of things. And I wrote him back last night and I said, no, son, we're not all pawns. We are in some sense. However, realize that in 6 calculated moves, a pawn can be any piece on the board. But it have to be calculated moves. So although we may consider ourselves pawns sometime, 6 calculated moves on a chess game. Anybody know anything about chess? Once a pawn goes all the way across the board, you can name the piece. It can be everything from a queen on down. And I've heard, and somebody correct me if I'm wrong, in the super masters level, the grand masters level, a pawn can go over and you can have 2 kings on the board. And you can move pawns over, and at that Grand Masters level, they play with more than 1 king in some games. So a pawn moving 6 calculated moves. A pawn can only go and capture left or right. It has to go in a straightforward motion. It can't go backwards. So once a pawn makes 6 moves, it's reached the other side of the board. Calculated. Using the assistance of the other players on the chessboard. And it becomes any player on the board that you want to name it. So in saying that, I want to tell a story. I was young, and my favorite, for some reason, growing up, I grew up Jehovah's Witness, as I always say. I respect my father for that, and I appreciate that for it. It taught me who I made me who I am, part of who I am today. But my favorite heroes were Muhammad Ali and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. It's like a coincidence they were Muslims, and I would later one day become a Muslim. But those were my favorite athletes because they stood for something. When I saw them change their name and stand on principles, I was proud of that. But being that in basketball, my favorite player was Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. I'm about 5'8". So we used to play, when we couldn't play at the basketball court, we used to play on the clotheslines. And we would take the clotheslines in the neighborhood, when we stayed in the projects, we'd flip the clotheslines around and make a basket on each end of the poles. And I had a favorite shot called the jump hook. And I would sky hook. The sky hook was my shot because I was my favorite person I patterned after. And I could shoot that sky hook from the other end of the court all the way in and bank it in. And I was my shot. Until I got to the big court. On the big court, you played with the big boys. And when you played with the big boys and you were about 5, at that time, I was smaller than 5'8" now. So you can imagine I was just a normal sized kid. And when you playing with the big boys who are going to be one day 6'8", 6 foot, 6'6", and you go to turn to the left, I had a fake to the left, I fake to the right, and I have left-handed. That's why they couldn't catch me. But I had a left-handed hook, but it would get swiped away by this incoming giant because on the big cord, it wouldn't work on the small cord, the little clothesline. That trick I used on the clothesline cord wouldn't work on the big cord. And so I had to find out more strategy and learn quick that doesn't work. So I had to change different strategy and change up. In life, some of us dream of being something. And a lot of folks sometimes, you ever seen a person in church that sing but really can't sing? And they sing loud, but they really can't sing? Well, because they probably dreamed of being a singer. And sometimes nobody's probably ever came to them and said, you really can't sing. And what happens is they go through life singing and talk about how they could have one day been in the kind of contract and did this and did that because they really think they can sing. Sometimes the dreams of what we want to do are not what we're supposed to do. A lot of us grow up. Some of us want to be athletes. Some of us want to be singers. And some of us want to be leaders. Some of us grew up and saw Martin Luther King and Malcolm X. We heard W.E.B. Du Bois. We saw Booker T. Washington. We read about Marcus Garvey. And we said, oh, we saw Soldier and the Truth, Harriet Tubman. We saw Coretta and them leading. They were leaders too. Don't get me wrong. Betty was a leader because they wasn't behind Malcolm. You see them on the front line walking. Rosa Parks leading. She was a leader. Women lead too. And some of us want to be that leader. And sometimes some of us are really not qualified to be in that position. And no one comes and tell us that we're not really qualified. So we go on moving in the direction and sometimes stumbling, and no one would never tell us that we're stumbling. Doesn't mean we can't fit and we can't do the work. It means that sometimes we need to step back and let others lead. And let those that need to be in the front, those that have the credentials, those that may get us a little further, take that ball and go with it. Sometimes we have to take a step back position and find out what we do best. I try to do that humbly sometimes. And then sometimes I'm forced to say, nope, I need to take this ball and go forward with it. Need to know when to lead and when not to lead. I'm going to release a video coming up, audio. Leadership 101 is something I did about 3 years ago. My wife at the time told me, she said that was one of the best lectures I've ever done. It deals with Leadership 101. And I want to ask the leadership of Wilmington to listen to it. I want to ask the pastors of Wilmington to listen to it. I want to ask those that are in organizational leadership to listen to it. And let's figure out in this city, what's the best way to lead? Who are those that are most qualified to lead? And if someone comes and says, no covers, you need to pull back, I have to be cognitive enough. I have to be understanding enough. I have to be responsible to my community enough to pull back and say, you know what? This person or this group may be the best one to get us forward. Because when we have too many people trying to move forward in every different direction, the powers that be sit back and they laugh. And they say, another year we can take this bag of money and go back home because those Negroes are not ready yet. Because we can always say, we gave it to this one, we gave it to that one, we gave it to this one, and give nothing to our community at all because we got so many people that won't come together. Someone wrote to me the other day in a Facebook page and said, this the problem with Wilmington. Everybody think their way is the right way. No, brother. I don't think my way is the right way. But it becomes a race like the tortoise and the hare. I keep saying keep running. Because until I see change, I'm going to keep running. I'm going to keep going at a forward progress. I don't necessarily have the answer. Because if I had the answer, we'd be implementing it tomorrow. I have some of the answer. You have the rest of the answer. And the next person have the rest of the answer. If we all come together, we can pass this final examination. Because if we don't pass it and we don't pass it soon, we are going to be forever lost, and our children will suffer our disunity. That's all I wanted to say this morning. I want us to have a good day. We're going into Martin Luther King weekend. I want everybody to celebrate, have a celebration of life, and celebrate Martin Luther King's legacy as we go through this weekend, and participate in many of the events coming up. I love you. This is your brother No Covers coming to you out of Wilmington, North Carolina, and I will release that Leadership 101